Good evening. Welcome to another episode of Cinnamon Chat with Amita, Sri Lanka's first regular LinkedIn live talk show. And today we are going to have a very special guest. And I have to remind you, this is the eighth episode, eighth edition. So if you really look at, I've been doing this for last 2 months with today's episode. And today we are going to focus on SME and professional growth by understanding tax and the budget. So there had been around 270 attendees have registered for the show on LinkedIn and on Facebook, a similar number. We will see how many would turn up to learn, comment, and question with our guest. So before I talk about the guest, let me talk about this show a little bit. Now, I got LinkedIn Live few months back, and then I started adding value. I have around 4,500 odd LinkedIn connections, and they have been adding value to me, giving me business opportunities, contacting each other, having a great time. Then I was thinking, how best can I add value to them? And then I went solo, did a few lives. Then I realized, okay, if I want to add more value, it's time that I bring in an expert every week. So I have brought 7 experts so far, and today we have the 8th expert. And let me also talk about me for those who don't know me. My name is Amita Gamage, and what do I do? Yeah, apart from doing this live show, I'm a CEO coach, basically an executive coach, but I coach very senior people. And I'm a personal brand strategist. And then I also have expert on B2B sales performance, and I help organizations to achieve that. So let me talk about today's guest. I have a little bio with me. Let me read it. So the name of the person is Jitendran Gajendran. He's a partner at Gajman Company, a leading chartered accounting firm that specializes in taxation and carries all services from incorporation to liquidation, you name it. And Jitendran was chosen as one of the new establishment 100 by Michelin, and he's also a non-executive director in many companies in industries such as brokering, big data, technology, and others. He's also actively involved with the startup world through Global Student Entrepreneurs Award of Entrepreneurs Organization, that's EO, and recently was part of the Lanka Angel Network. He believes all problems are an opportunity for exponential growth. So let me invite Jitendran. Hi, Jito.
Hi, Amita. How are you doing? Nice to see you.
Yeah. So for the benefit of the audience, now we call him Jito. I think his school friends and everybody calls him Jito.
Everyone calls me Jito. You can call me Jito. It's fine.
Yeah.
Jitendran is the name my father gave me, but I think Jito is what everyone else gave me. So.
Yeah. So let me ask you the first question. At the same time, I would like to ask our viewers, audience. Even for me, taxi is a little complicated subject. I think even I will have a lot of questions that I would get good answers from. So I would request the audience to come live, ask questions and get answers. And our show is generally 45 minutes, but if you ask a lot of questions, we have the liberty of going another 15 minutes extra. So Jito, before we get into the tax, right, I can see that you are doing a lot of things. Can you tell us about your personal journey, maybe a little bit of your education, childhood, up to tax? Then we talk about tax.
Sure. I was when I was younger, I had gone to 4 schools. So I've been alumni of 4 schools, Then I was in University of Warwick. I was head chairman of international students. That was 5,000 students. And then I started business. One of the first businesses I did when I was around 21, 22, after coming back from universities with two now friends, but at that time acquaintances from Japura University called Imesh and Chaturanga. We started an agriculture export of spices. We did 150 million revenue in 1 year, and then we went bankrupt in 2 years. So that was my starting story, where the difficulties I faced in business, and I think that has been one of the strengths for me doing all this business, Amita. When because of that only, I think my tax consultancy skills have been enhanced by that.
Okay, so it is great to know that you have done business. That's very important. I know even today you do business, but then someone to first get into business and then later get into taxes, so that you know the pains of an entrepreneur, a business owner. That is also very important. Sometimes one of the complaints that the entrepreneurs or business owners make is, that tax consultants don't understand. They only understand the numbers. So it's great to see that
when you say that, I have to say something that when I did my business, my father is a leading tax consultant. Some of you might know already. So when I did start a business, he was not happy. I don't think anyone was happy at that time, because when I ran the business and the difficulties I faced, and when you're young, you make a lot of mistakes, which are learning points. But at that time, it was difficult. So at one point, I went to my father's partner. His name is Mr. Mile11. This Gajma stands for Gajendra and Mile11. So Mr. Mile11, I told him, sir, this Gajendra name is a big problem for me. I have to stand on here. It's very difficult. Then he looked at me. He's a very nice man, and he said, Jito, don't think of it like that. You have to stand on our shoulders, right? And we have to stand on our father's shoulders. So that is my job. But then, as a tax consultant, it's not a family business. Like, if you have a doctor, you don't go to the father, you don't go to the son just because the father was a good doctor, right? So, same situation here. So, I'm taking my stand independently, but my father's shadow is there.
Yeah. Point well taken. So now about the tax side of the story. Anything else you want to add to that before we get into tax-related questions? So your experience.
We'll go into the questions. So I think.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So, what is tax consultancy? Is tax straightforward? Right? I mean, government will say this is how we make taxes, so we do business, and then we just adhere to those guidelines. Is it that simple? Why do we need consultants? And I also know, like, large organizations get your services, tax consultant, but maybe smaller organization, medium-sized organization also don't probably take tax consultancy. So I want you to shed some light over there.
So straightforward, Amita, when you see Kumar Sangakkara bat and he hits a cover drive, everything looks straightforward. Even I think I can go and hit a cover drive like him, right? So on the television, it looks like that. So when the Prime Minister the Finance Minister, the former President Mahinda Rajapaksa gets up and says, these are the tax benefits, it looks very straightforward.
Yeah.
But it is not. So my role as a tax consultant, as any tax consultant, you can ask a chartered accountant friend of yours or a CMA friend of yours. Our role is to be a coach to the company. Now you're a coach to the CEOs. We are a coach to the company. So the policies that have been set up by the government, we have to go and identify them and make sure that the company follows that step by step, which is not as easy as it looks, because if the government puts it strictly, and if you change it by one word, if you miss slightly, they will not give you that benefit. So tax is straightforward, but the benefit of it is dependent on the people, how they look at it and train. Sangakkara trained very well, and if any company trains well, you will have a wonderful cover drive. Otherwise, you will have problems.
All right, that's very clear about whether it's straightforward or not. But then, uh, like, see, if a company is experienced enough, right? Maybe the own organization's finance department might advise this is how you should do. Isn't that enough?
Yeah, so now on that, I'll tell you a perspective of what we think. See, everyone does a role. So if as a finance manager now you were used to do sales, you're doing coaching. There are people with expertise in various areas. So now I also can take a Panadol and go. I have a headache now. COVID is going all over the place. We have you can take turmeric, you take steam. They tell you very many things you can do. But when you go to the doctor, they will give you a better and more specialized understanding. So your finance guys know it. I'm not saying they know. But what our role is to, because we are specialists, we dig into it further. Think of your general physician doctor.
Yeah.
You go and he will say, heart problem, go to a cardiologist. Or your
Yeah.
brain problem, you go. So that specialization is what we are. We come in to look at the problems of the business from a different view. Now the my business view, or looking at the business from different perspectives, has an advantage. So we all are the same. I won't say I'm any different from any finance manager out there or who's in this discussion. But our difference is we look at it and analyze it, and that is our job. For finance manager, you have to do a bank reconciliation, make sure the money has come in, sales, invoices, which is not our priority. Our priority is to see what the government or the prime minister, finance minister has given, and get it out to you. So
Okay.
that's the policy, how it works.
Okay. Understood. So let's say hi to few of our audience, even though they haven't asked any questions. We have Vijita. He says, Amita, good luck for today's program. She's one of the book winners in
Oh,
one
really?
of the previous
I was
programs.
telling Amita, I also want that book. I also love to read, so I want
You have
that
to
book.
come to the you have to come to the show and ask some questions and give some comments. And we have Manamohan Singh joining from Dubai, and he says hi. And then hi, Gayan. Thank you very much for joining. So my next question: do you see SME sector and professionals getting tax advisors and consultancy? So this is a bit of a loaded question. Your experience, I mean, I know you work with a lot of large organizations. I really don't know whether you work with a lot of small and medium sector organizations, but are they open to tax consultancy? Then the second one is professionals. Do they come and get advisors, or they just do what they want to do?
So businesses, SMEs, the frank answer is SMEs and professionals don't get their advice early enough. They don't do it at the start generally. There is an old saying that you should not keep sex for old age. Right? So it is something like that. Most people decide that tax consultancy should be come at when the company or when they're older and they're
Okay.
making more money. But that is not how it should be. You should do it at the start. But
Yeah.
in your question, Abhita, for your audience, I'll tell them, there are three types of people in SMEs and professionals. There are one person who understands and pays taxes,
Yeah.
who pays taxes. There is another segment who is unaware, who don't know what the taxes are happening. They are running a business, small business. They are not aware of it.
Yeah.
Then there are third who are hiding, evading the taxes. They're hiding the taxes. So those are the three categories. But what happens is we don't realize is that in most situations, SMEs convert white money to black without knowing. It's not black money to white. They convert white money to black unintentionally. I'll give you an example for professionals. Say you have a thing called an asset and liability statement. You don't have to give it, but the department asks it and people give it. If
Yeah.
you give it and you say you have a car or your mother's small land that you
Yeah.
have, yes, she has given to you, which you have not put in your asset and liability, in 1 year or 2 years, suddenly the asset and you sell the asset and you
Yeah.
get money. Department will say this is black money because you have not shown the asset earlier. So it's a problem. So you have to be careful. Most people don't, but if you do it properly, then you can benefit. And the tax policies are beneficial to SMEs, to professionals. So just go and ask. Either you can ask me or you can ask any other professional. They can give you some assistance to some level.
Okay, so I have to ask this question also. People are scared when they hear the word tax. Not only individuals, even the organization. Ask about myself. It's a bit of a scary word. You have any explanation to that?
tax is tax is always scary, and there's a reason why people are scared of it. It's like
Yeah,
you make your money, you work hard, and then you don't realize what is happening. The what I'll give you we have a friend, Amita and I have a friend who does who looks after the spiders, the rats, and all of them. So he always tells me, a house, an agent will find you the land to buy a land.
yeah,
Then you have to find a contractor to build the house.
yeah,
So you have bought the land, you build the house. And then he says, termites destroy everything that you have built. So tax is like termites, right? So whatever you have built, they destroy. So people are scared of it, but it is
yeah,
not to be scared. It's just you have to ask someone. The budget policies are there. I will also share the budget document that we have done,
yeah,
which we did overnight after the budget. And you guys can see, you can go industry by industry, professional by professional in that document. I'll give it to Amita. And that way you will understand what you want. You don't have to look for everything, but what is relevant to you. And also, I must say, other than for tax, a lot of people miss what's there in the budget. There are policies saying government wants to encourage now startups in Sri Lanka. So if you
yeah,
have a small technology startup, you should go and sign up with ICTA and go and get that investment. Go into that business. And government said they will give you the projects. They want to give these small companies, but most people, don't either listen to it or they listen to it and forget about it, thinking government is useless, they won't do any of this. You have to go and support the government, but you will never know till you try, right? So there is that Dilma always said, Dilma owners always tell whenever they go on stage that they were helped by the export development board at that time. They took a percentage of their company and invested at that time. So he never thought they were going to help. They were the same bad people, but there are once in a while some good people in government. So our assumption is we have to think they are there and go at it. We should not like say they're all bad. That's a
yeah.
that's
So
a
it's a
negative thing.
perception.
Yeah,
Probably good old days, people would have said, oh my God, tax department is very dangerous. So
yeah.
it has become a folk story, and then generation to generation, that same ideology has transferred. Okay, uh, I mean, you actually brought a valid point about going to them and talking. Now you were talking about this government's plan to offer uh, some benefits, investment if you are an IT company. I'm sure not many organizations are paying so much of attention as you very correctly said. So they miss the bus. Yeah. Okay.
And
So
small ones, the big ones don't miss. The big companies, the Accesses, the John Keels, they are always thinking about these things and they are aware. The small companies, you do training, you do IT somewhere. Those companies think, we are too small for this. We are not the ones the government is looking at. We are not the people they are looking after. But you have to not forget, government also has to win elections. So they don't win election only by looking after the big boys. Yes, the big boys will help you, but the small guy is also important. So they will do at least sparingly someone. Like this loans and all. Earlier they gave loans. There are
yeah,
people who got the loans.
yeah,
But if you ask, most people say they have not got the loan. Even your audience here, you ask, Have any of you got these loans? They'll say no. But there are small companies that I am aware of who were full focused. They went after it. They spoke to their bank manager and everyone and pushed, and they have got. And
Yeah.
it's about your energy sometimes.
Yeah, I know. I mean, one or two companies who actually they prepared their reports right. They made sure that they listened to the bank manager's advice and they did it right, and then they eventually got the benefit. So I'm sure even tax, there has to be some work that you need to do. It's not given on a platter and say, hey, look, you are done. That's why we need people like you, professionals like you. Yeah. Okay. Let's say hi to few other audience who love our show. There's Manoj who says hi, and we have Amit joining from Panadura, and we have someone else, Suresh. He's joining from Singapore. So we have someone coming from Dubai, Singapore. So I have a little bit of a international audience as well. Thank you very much for joining with us. If you have questions about Sri Lankan tax laws or anything, any clarification, don't expect me to bring it on next week. Please ask all your questions today. And then Kingsley says hi to us. Thank you, Kingsley, for joining. My next question, uh, like, when do you think the small companies? I mean, there is a time to grow, right? And then let's say you have started and your revenue is coming up as a small or a medium, because today's our focus is small medium, and take a professional, you become an assistant manager, then you become a manager, your package becomes bigger. When do you think they should start looking at the tax? What is the threshold? When should they plan?
Most people should plan taxes immediately. That is what I would advise, and it should be thought of immediately. I'll explain to you how these taxes work from a analogy that I might be giving too many analogies, but that is my habit, I think. So there's a analogy, this wrestlers. I don't know if you remember this WWF and WWE and these wrestlers. So other than the wrestlers, there are the business behind the wrestling. Right? So there's a business behind the wrestling. So they have what they call choke hold, where you hold the person by the neck.
Yeah.
Instead of holding, there's a thing in their business called choke point. So there are three elements in their business which can close down a business. One is your talent. Those are the wrestlers and the show that you're putting and the creativity. The second one is distribution. So now here Amita is distributing on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on YouTube, right? So he has distribution. At that time, it is a big problem. You don't have Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. So distribution was only through television channel, right? And the third choke point is finances. So now most people look at taxes as a choke point, right? So when you're choking only, you say, what is the problem that is happening? But even if you're not choking, you say you have no taxes, you have started, your supplier might have taxes. Your competitors might have know the tax law better. Then they might be able to sell at a lower price. Your buyers might have taxes. So are you the correct person? Now, for example, this VAT reduction came for a lot of people. This earlier it was 15 million, now it's 200 and 300 million. It's a big amount, right? The threshold below that you don't have to pay taxes. But for some people, this is a problem. If you're importing some good and you're selling it to an external final person, that other guy is a big guy, he is registered. So he wants this input tax that they call it. So they had a problem immediately. They were going out of business because they were not having the input tax and they had to register. So they went to the government understanding this, and they created what you call voluntary registration after so many years. So now they voluntarily register for VAT because they can get the benefit on the other side. Sometimes people just forget that tax is not only about you, which everyone thinks it's wrong. You have to think about all the other parties, your shareholders, your investors. All of them are affected by tax, and if you do it right, you can make the tax and the profit value that they get better overall.
So what you say is tax is a little ecosystem, and you are part of it.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's government's way to now. Tax itself is a, it is not, it's not a right. If, even though people say paying tax is ethics, the reality is tax is something the government has enforced on us. Without government enforcing by law, there is nothing called tax. Normally we have the right to free speech. We have the right to have our own house over our head, the food. Those are rights, especially in a country where we believe in family values so much, like Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka. That is not the case when they forget about this element completely. So you have to think
So
about it. Yeah.
yeah. So when you talk about law, so there is law involved. Yeah. So
Yeah.
maybe that is one of the reasons why people are scared of tax.
Yeah, that is
Tax
true.
law.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a few other friends who are joining us. Okay. We have, I think, Tikshana. Hi, Amita and Tito. And we have Shohan Kulasurya joining with us. I'm going to catch you, Shohan, for one of the programs. And we have Lashan Silva saying hi. And we have a question. I have to remind the audience good questions and good comments also will be benefited here. Let me say that before I move on to other areas. Now, we have two giveaways here. One, we are giving a book to somebody randomly chosen. There's no competition here. By courtesy of Pick a Book. If you want to know about Pick a Book, go to their Facebook page, go to LinkedIn. My son is a member of Pick a Book Junior Club, so you will learn something about them. And by courtesy of them, we will be giving away a book. And then we also are planning to give away a pack of fresh vegetables and fruits, chemical free. That's coming from it's a vegetable and a fruit pack courtesy of Foodies Farm to Table, chemical free, backyard kind of uh, vegetables and fruits by courtesy of Foodies Farm. Of course, I had to remind you now. My Pickabooks last week was taken away by someone in Naragad, and the previous week it was won somebody by Kurunagala. So no pointing sending vegetables to Kurunagala or Naragala. So the veggie pack will go to somebody in Colombo district, or you have to nominate somebody. If you are the winner, you nominate somebody who is in this area. So in order to be qualified, you got to comment or ask some good questions. So we have our first question. Kingsley is asking Jito, what is the tax value method for SMEs in Sri Lanka? I also have
Yeah.
to remind, you said you got to plan your taxes even if you haven't come to the threshold. Maybe he's talking about the threshold. What do you think?
Yeah, so now, so SMEs, Kingsley, I'm not understanding what you mean by value, but let me tell you SMEs how you should plan. If you are an SME, you should first see what product you're selling. You should see what product you're selling. If you're selling a product, you should see what is your initial revenue. If you're below 500 million, you're an SME for Sri Lankan income tax law. If you're below 300, there's no tax threshold SME for VAT, but below 300 million, there is no VAT. Right? So the goods that you're selling, you have to go and see if those goods, where are they manufactured? Depending on where they are manufactured, you will have some benefits the government has given. Sometimes now in the new year, this year, the budget, the government has said if you have an imported product, which is tax exempt or has tax benefits, you manufacture in Sri Lanka also, we will give you tax benefits. So tax exemptions and so on. So if you are an SME, you should look at it from that perspective. Then the second perspective I would say is always you have to look at it from your investor, whoever's put your money in. So if you put money in, how is he going to take the money out? So sometimes it is better for him to keep the money in your business, right? So if he takes the money out, what is he going to do with it? Will he have to pay higher taxes? most likely if you are doing an agriculture like the farming business they were talking about, that is now exempt from taxes. Government has given beneficial tax policy. They are always um, the Rajapaksa governments are always for agriculture. That is no question about it. They are always for agriculture, and they are always for inbound services where you provide services abroad, and there are exemptions. So you have to identify if you're a product or a service, and then you look at the depth of it. If you want, you can always go to the India Revenue site and get the law, or just a message. I'm sure on LinkedIn and Facebook there are enough friends of yours who will solve your specific problem. But individuals, SMEs tax rate is 14%, that they are exempt. Now there's no ESC, NBT, so it has become simple. Unless you are in the liquor business or cigarette smoking or cars,
Which
then
is a
I'm
license.
sorry, they have put a additional tax on you, which they promised. Actually, I'm not political in any way, but Gota's manifesto said he is giving a GST, that is an additional turnover tax. Everyone was thinking, where will that come? And that is was on cigarettes and vehicles and alcohol. He's saying it's not going to add any taxes, but they are expecting higher revenue from it. So there must be some increase in tax rate next year.
Okay. All right. So we have Uma Sudan who says hi. And we have a question from Suresh, because Suresh is coming from Singapore. So any benefits to BOI registered companies, as we are one? So he's a BOI registered company. So how is the government calculating tax when it comes to a BOI registered company?
So BOI registered companies get some benefits if you have it under the agreement. If you have an old agreement, there can be benefits that come from the old agreement that you have. BOI normally sometimes are very old companies and they are registered for a long time, you will get benefits. But if you were registered from 2011, that is during Rajapaksa previous term, they had they removed some of the benefits for BOIs. BOI didn't. It was coming under the Internal Revenue Act, income tax exemptions and so on. Now BOIs have benefits, but the bigger benefits is coming if you are doing further investment. They are doing SDA, special development projects, STP are there, that you have to gazette, or you can have what they call tax holidays. So there are tax holidays 3, 5, 10 years. So the tax holidays are dependent on the industry and the business you are in. As a BOI itself, you will get some benefits, but most of the benefits come from the industry you are in, more specifically.
Jitu, you also want to mention some industry classifications just for our benefit?
Sure. So now, if you take tax holidays right now, you are getting tax holidays for renewable energy. Right, you're getting renewable energy 5 years tax holidays. You're getting, if you're coming from training colleges, training institutions, that you're getting tax holidays. If you're coming from vocational training institute, if you're registered, say any of the companies are registered with vocational training, their students get tax exemption. So it's a incentive for all training people, including Amita here, I think, to register with vocational training. So if you register, their students can get tax exemption. So this vocational training, even if you are doing major trucks, containers, all those also fall under vocational training. Actually, sales also might fall under vocational training, because no one thinks of it like it's in a profession, although it's a very important skill set which Sri Lanka is missing. So vocational training is there. Agriculture is exempt. It is exempt. Other than that, I always call it the bridge. From here, one of our friends is from Singapore. There's a bridge in Sri Lanka. We have a bridge that you have to come through. So it's called inward investment account. So if you bring the money through the inward investment account, or in some cases the BOI will give you special permission. Whatever the money you put here, the interest, dividends you're getting out, you don't have any tax.
Oh,
so that is very beneficial.
So Shure says that we registered in 2009 education in Sri Lanka, as a BOI registered organization. So I get some points from you. He should meet you. Okay. I hope Suresh got some points. Now we have, okay, Ajay Says hi, good luck. And Dino is asking a question. Is salary earned from working abroad taxed in Sri Lanka?
So, like I said, the bridge. So, if you are with the bridge, if you have gone abroad, they are exempting your taxes. So now, if any Sri Lankan, the government wants foreign currency, right? So, if you are having foreign currency, it is good for Sri Lanka. We need the foreign currency to strengthen our reserves. So, what they have told us is if you provide a service or you are working for a company abroad, all sources are exempt from tax. So anything you get from abroad except from export of goods. So let's say now Amita has a nice cup that is showing. If you decide to print more cinnamon chat cups and export it, then that is not exempt. You'll have to pay the 14% tax rate for exporters. But his professional services or anyone providing consulting services, those are exempt from taxes. And employment also, it is exempt from taxes.
Yeah. So Uma Sudan is asking a question related to the comment that you made now. What sort of tax benefits you get for export of spices? Now, I heard you said it'll be taxed, but he's asking about tax benefits.
Yeah. So tax benefit now, if you are producing spices, so now I was also in the spice business, so there are different layers, right? So if you're producing spices, you are exempt from taxes. There is no question. So you're the person who is planting the spices or you're the farmer, you're exempt. And if you are exporting as a farmer, that also I think they will consider as exempt. Even though these are, legislation has to be enacted, it has to come in law. Right? So until it's enacted, we don't know. Sometimes these things will change. They'll change one word and the whole thing is different. Right? So
Yeah.
if you change, Mr. and Mrs., there's only one letter different, but it's a big difference, right? So if you write an letter and I say Mrs. Amita, he won't be very happy, right? So that's the same situation here. So spices, it is you have the normal reduced rate export benefits. Also, they are giving support. You can go and get funds, grants. When I was in spices, also there are grants that they give the Export Development Board for spices. So you can definitely go and see. Those are not easy to get, but the tax benefit is it's generally exempt, and export will be at 14%. Also, if you do any development, technology, new innovation, those also will get extra benefits for tax.
Okay. So there's another question from Vijita. She asked, people who are working in private sector is more taxed than the business owners. Do you agree? Probably she's talking about the personal income tax, or maybe there's a bit of a mix-up. Can you explain?
Vijita, you're right. It used to be the case, but they have changed it. Earlier, the company or a firm or an organization can plan their taxes. They come and meet me, and we will see under the law what the government has given, what is the best thing you can do. Now, from 1st of January this year, even individuals have to file their own return. Now you don't have this easiness of paying PAYE, and so the filing of return is a headache. It's a big headache. But if you file your return, you can now plan your taxes. So you can manage your taxes, and you are now in an even playing field to a company, in my opinion. Earlier, let's say I am providing a service to an individual, and as an independent, not say I'm part of a firm, I'm saying an individual. So I can keep a file and keep separate, there's a separation between you and the company. But there was no deductions. You can deduct expenses which they have not thought. Now, for example, let's assume now Abhita is doing this training here on with us. We are doing a live session. The call to me can be considered as an expense before the meeting. The day he called me, those are expenses. If he has coffee and he's giving me coffee, although there's entertainment, that would be exempt from taxes. So those are actually you can now manage it, and individuals can manage it much better than you thought of it all these years. Earlier, you could not. Let's say if you're an employee, you're stuck. You have to pay whatever they say. they have now given what you call expenditure relief, 1.2 million, which I think all of you all should hear. Because 1.2 million, if you spend on your children for education, you can get the relief. If you are going for housing loan and interest, you can get the relief. Now the stock market is flying and you buy some shares, that also can come as a relief. So that 1.2 million is a significant amount, depending on your, and on that you have no taxes. Tax rate is implied on that and no taxes. So that means your threshold has gone up. Now only at 250,000 a month the person has to pay tax. With this 1.2 million, now the 250 goes up to 350. So that's significant.
But as you very correctly said, you have to plan, you have to have your file, and there's all the workings have to be there.
Yeah, one of the biggest mistakes, Amit, if I tell you, your friends here who are professionals or who are working in companies, they have told, who are over 250,000, they have asked the company to deduct their taxes. Most of them ask them to deduct their taxes, which is a mistake. It's an absolute definite mistake, because first you lose timing. You're paying taxes in advance. If you're paying individually, you pay later, right? And also you can claim this deduction, this 1.2 million, which you can't if he has already deducted and paid the tax. After paying the tax, don't expect to take the money out of the Indian Revenue Department. That's not happening anytime. So it's very, very, very difficult. No, that's not
So I
worth
think
it.
it's a very, very valid point for professionals. I think a lot of don't know about this 1.2 million additional benefit that you can take if you really work towards it. You can't just get up and say, "Oh my God, can I take it?" But by the time you have already paid your taxes, yeah, you got to work on it. But then I have to ask you a question. Now, each time the governments change taxes, how is it affecting the individual? Before we go to the SME sector, every new government or every new minister would bring in new proposals. Then,
That is a problem with tax. Tax is the most vibrant or energetic law in the world, you generally call it, because we don't get old because it changes every day, right? So the tax laws are continuously changing. It's like when a young boy, you look, one girl is pretty, then the next girl is pretty, and the next girl is pretty. That sort of mentality is what the tax law is. And we have to understand the government, this is the easiest way for them to change. No? So
yeah,
other things are difficult. Get efficiency. Now this time, Gota has said, get efficiency. He is wanting special clause. I think most people have missed 200% efficiency from government service. So we are giving allocation of say 10 million. He is going to get double the work. I don't think people have seen it. He's going to get double the work, but that is difficult, right? That is very, very difficult. So I don't know if I answered the question.
yeah, definitely yes. So we have maybe around 15 minutes more. I mean, I haven't asked the question that I have planned. So shall we get into the budget? Like what kind of changes have been brought into the tax system with this budget? I mean, you can shed some light for the benefit of everybody, especially SME sector.
Yeah, so some are these tax holidays they have given. Uh, Other than the tax holidays, they have also given these exemptions, which I call the bridge from Sri Lanka and out, which I've already explained.
Yeah.
Something that I have not explained is, I always say that, money, this old saying that I heard from my grandfather's time. They say, money can buy anything except turning a man to a woman and a woman to a man, right? So in taxes, that is also possible. It's called deemed taxes. That is also possible. So in that, you are converting a local sale company to an export company. Now you think, how is that possible? They are saying COVID is a difficult situation. Sri Lanka is struggling. So they are considering you selling your PPE or mask or anything you import. They are considering it like an export. It will be considered part of your export, which is definitely not an export. It's selling to local, our government, which we have not seen. Then they have removed one deemed provision like this. Earlier, these PETA guys always were complaining, we can't come into the network. People, in fish markets and all, we can't come into the network because our supply is not paying tax. So when I'm paying VAT, I'm paying on the full value, not on the margin, on the 100% I'm paying. So what are you going to do? So the government earlier, previously, previous government deemed input tax. So they get, okay, that guy is not paying, I know, we can't help him. We are struggling to catch him also, but we'll give you deemed input tax, right? So they have this changing. Deemed means in Sri Lanka, in tax laws, means you are converting a man to a woman to a man, sort of thinking. That's trying to explain it to you uh, in a easy way, right? So those are three main things that they have. Other than that, there are some these capital markets. If you are into this stock market, REIT
Yeah.
market, they are coming. So they are told you get reduced taxes for stock market if you are investing in shares, and also for REIT market, reduced means half the tax. So if you are 28%, 14%. I don't know, even if you're alcohol company, if you register, they might say half. So I don't know that, but that is also possible, right? So those are the companies that actually should register, but they won't, I don't think, immediately, right? So they have that thing. But the one thing you must know, when you're registering, it takes 300 days to list. So the deadline is 31st of December next year, but it takes almost 309 days on a count that I had to do this listing. So yes, you can speed it up. Other than you're getting agreement, so that means you and your friends and your in your board have to also agree to do. So listing is one. The other one is a REIT market, which is good for Sri Lankan. They want inclusive growth, which is very important. In the taxes are therefore inclusiveness. You don't want poor being very down and rich being very up. That is not good for any society. So REITs are trying to bring this down. So what they're saying is, you must be rich to buy a land. So if the land grows in value, you have to be rich. If you are not rich, you can't buy a land. REIT is different from that. What they are saying is, you can buy a unit, a unit in a land, which they will sell like shares. One unit, which may be 1,000 rupees, 2,000 rupees, or whatever it is, and you're buying one unit. So they, with 1,000 units, they might buy 100 million rupee uh, property, right? So they
Yeah.
might buy 100 million, but your 1,000, no, so it is not so much. It
Yeah.
comes to a very small, negligible amount. Then you will get a benefit. So those industry is not yet established. They have given income tax, capital gains tax, all exemptions, and reduced the stamp duty. This is a very inclusive policy. I think it will help the
That's why,
people.
and you were talking about the stock market, and Suresh is asking any change in capital gain tax.
So the capital gains tax principally has not changed, but they have definitely told the people to think about how you do your capital gains. So they are telling to look at the market value, look at what you are doing, but capital gains tax in principle has not changed. Definitely not
Change.
changed. No.
Okay. So I want to ask you this question also. Have the government taken pandemic into consideration with regard to going forward? What kind of, you mentioned one or two examples, but then anything that you could highlight where SMEs could be benefited, where government has maybe relaxed a little bit because of the pandemic?
So for the pandemic, they have done a lot of reduction for SMEs. It's a major thing. One thing they have done, they have extended our payment dates till December. So anyone who is paying, could not pay, they have given till December. They have extended the return filing date from November to February 28th. Other than that, they have also given benefits in, they have said, if you have tax assessment, say you have a tax assessment from previous year, they are going to cancel it, they are saying, which is a humongous thing for SMEs, which I don't know how they are going to do, but they are going to waive off taxes if you are in arrears. So if you're a small company below 500 million and you're having tax problems, please talk to someone and get it, try and see if you can cancel it. That is a real legitimate issue. So you might have had VAT, NBT, income tax. They are saying arrears, they are going to assessment, they are going to cancel. Individuals have not fall into that definition of SME. So if you're an individual, you might, but I hope they will amend it in the committee. Now committee stage or budget are finished, but the act is not coming. So normally
Yes.
the law for inbound taxes, that is custom duties and all, come around start of the year, immediately after the budget. Day after the budget, they come. If it is VAT or NBT early, it comes in December, around now. The law itself, the actual law, and income tax comes around February, because that is just before the law, the date starts. So 1st of April is the new year. Before the new year, we should get the laws. Otherwise, we can't plan our taxes, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Retrospective taxes are never good, because if you're retrospectively taxing someone, they will think, you have decided something and then you get taxed late. So let's say you have a margin of 10%, and then government puts a tax of 15%. You are not aware, that can send you out of business. Nothing
Yeah.
of your fault, but you can be out of business. So those are important. And one more thing, I think some people have heard this, there's a amnesty. I say this monopoly. When I was small, I used to play monopoly. My wife says I still play monopoly sometimes. There is this card which says get out of jail free card. So they are saying if you go to jail, you can get out of jail free. So now that is for the evaders and all. They have said if you bring money back 1%, you pay tax, and we will forget everything. But
Yeah.
at the moment, the forgetting is only for income tax, not for VAT, NBT, all that, which I think they have to look at. I think the ministry are all looking at it at the moment to amend those things, because if it's not complete, someone is going to catch you. So if you
Yeah.
that has to be very cleanly made to allow amnesty. They are calling it forgiveness, tax forgiveness, but tax pardon. Earlier it was called amnesty. It was there in Ranil Wickremesinghe's government in 2001 and 3, and then it was removed by Chandrika when she came back. So that is, some older people are scared of this amnesty, because whoever did it and then they removed it after that, then that became a problem. So, but here the government has said they are going to stick to it. So if they stick to it, then people will follow it.
Yeah. So those, if you had a genuine case, no,
Yeah.
in this case, it shouldn't be even a genuine case. If they have been purposely evading, still, if you can build your case, you can still there could be an opportunity. That's what you say.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, right. So I don't know whether I should be asking this question, but then one reason why people don't go for a tax advisor, a consultant, maybe they believe that it's costly. I know a legal friend, Jito, you also can recall. He says my services are always expensive, so at least we know before we go to him, he's expensive. Could that be one reason why SMEs are also not taking now? If I look at all the points that you have made, I'm sure there's a hell of a lot that SMEs can take and then plan their 2021 better. But all these advisors probably are not taken because they think that maybe it's costly. Is it costly?
the I truly believe that if you are a top professional, you should be the cheapest in the market. So whatever happens and however it happens, I think my position is that you have to understand what you're providing and the value you provide. And my job is to be the cheapest. I think it's really misunderstanding that it is expensive. Because when everyone thinks it's expensive, you don't go do it. Now, for example, you can say getting a gym instructor is expensive. There some guys are charging 1,000 rupees, 1,500 rupees. If you're, it's okay if you're doing it, your wife is doing it, your kids are doing it, then now you have 5,000 rupees a day. It's going right now. You might say it is expensive. It is true, it's expensive, but the health benefit that comes out of it is immeasurable. So the tax advice is dependent on how much value that we provide to you. So if I don't provide value to you, it's definitely expensive. If I provide value to you by explaining the law easily, simply, so that you understand it and can execute it, like a good coach, as I said earlier, Kumar Sangakkar, then it is not expensive. Otherwise, it is definitely like everything is expensive.
Yeah, I recall what you said earlier. Sometimes by trying to evade or by trying not to pay taxes, you may pay more taxes than you should pay. You wanna give an example for that?
So there's so many examples for this, but I'll give you now. When I used to do spice trading, and we were doing manufacturing, exporting of pepper, cinnamon, clove. You can see in Embelipitia and these Martale and areas like that, there are people who make money, right? So they think they are hiding. There is a general understanding that they are hiding money, so they don't show their revenue and go. Now, what they don't realize is they are now tax exempt. Today, government has exempted them from almost all taxes. Spices have no VAT, there is no income tax, nothing for farming. But they don't show their money in the books. So what they go and show when the department comes, you have to file an audit report or whatever you have to file. They will say instead of 100 million, they'll say, no, no, sir, can't do, we'll put 10 million. Some boy there will be like, the fellow who counts the money say, no, we'll put 10 million, nothing, government will come to us, 10 million. Now this 90 million has to be kept somewhere. No?
Yeah.
Where do they keep? If it is small amount, you can keep in your locker or something. Big amount, they put in the bank. 5 years later, a department guy will come and look at it and say, yeah, where did you get this 90 million from? Right? Now, initially, he was not tax liable. He was exempt. He doesn't have to pay any taxes, right? But because he didn't, follow the law, understand it, now this guy is in trouble, right? Now his job is expensive. It's like you asked, expensive. Then like heart surgeon fees. In heart surgery, you have to get tax consultants like myself, lawyers, everyone to fight and explain and say, no, 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 this I made a mistake. This was money at that time, and you have to explain this whole thing, which he didn't have to do. So this misunderstanding creates havoc. People don't realize that some small thing like that can change your life.
Right. There's another question. Uma also is asking about renewable energy. You get tax benefits for renewable energy, but do you get same benefits for import of solar powered products or anything? Now, we don't produce anything energy efficient in the sense, maybe we say, okay, renewable energy, but the panel has to be imported. So, how do you look at that?
My understanding is the solar power energy based industry is fully exempt or out of taxes. Now, the solar power cells, I didn't get the name of the person who asked the question.
Uma.
Uh, Uma. So he was, his thinking is most of the things are exempt from taxes. Uma. But what really happens is sometimes, depending on the customs or the shipping agent that you are using, you will pay under the wrong HS code or wrong without understanding the true element of it. Now, I'll give you another example. This some people bring heating, this water heating, not solar power, but water heating. That everyone thinks is liable for taxes, but it is not. It's under the law. It says any energy that you're getting from the sun is exempt. The government's policy, they say sun brought down to earth. The sun when you anything the sun gives, we are exempting actually. Solar power, farming, uh, hydropower, all of that is coming from the sun, we are exempting in Sri Lanka. So even though he might be in the situation he's paying taxes, but most likely he doesn't. I don't know his specific circumstance, but from what I heard here, it looks like he should not be paying any tax.
Okay. We have Suraji here who says, hi. Hi, Suraji. Thank you very much for coming. Now, we have 1 minute more. So maybe before I announce who gets the veggie pack and the book, maybe I would like to ask one last question. What kind of advice would you give professionals? And before we finish the program, and then what kind of advice would you give SMEs as well? We are looking at, we all have gone through a bad patch. Uh, businesses had not been doing well. Professionals were under a lot of stress, working from home and all that. But then, maybe I don't want that advice only from tax point of view, but then overall, because your experience with business also is important here.
So yeah, I think as anyone who is doing this from either startup or in employment, they should think that they are innovative, which we always Sri Lankans we are forgetting. What we mean by innovative is that you should get ideas from other businesses. So now, yeah, yesterday Amita was telling me that my lighting was bad. Before we tested this, he said my lighting is bad. So that I am learning from him. So now innovation comes like that. I'll give you an example. You know that you all would have seen the helmets, this bicycle helmet. People who ride bicycles, that helmet.
Yeah.
That helmet looks like a hull of a boat. The hull of
Yes.
the boat. The person who invented it saw the hull of a boat and he said, this hull, nothing damages. It's very difficult to damage a hull of a boat. So he thought, why not create a hat which is in the shape of the hull of the boat? So that is how this boat hull came onto your head. So you're literally carrying a boat on your head. So our job is to see that true difference. Look, take from one person and talk to another person. The more people you talk to in business, that's one advice I'll give anyone, is go and meet your friend who is doing a completely different business. When you all chat, suddenly things will connect. You'll be like, my gosh, this you can do for me, or I can do for you. Those things are more important than only trying to find a sale. Sometimes sale is important, but this innovative thinking can create exponential, multiplier value. Um, and that value is unbelievable, right? So if your exponential value in 50 steps, you can go out of the universe. 1 meter becomes
Yeah.
a billion after 50 steps. It exponentially grows. So that thinking is very, very critical. My last thing, what I would tell anyone is think big and talk to your friends. It's helpful.
That's
It
your
is all.
that's your last advice. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's from Jitendra Rajendran, partner Gajman Company. And let's see, I think we have one more comment. Okay. Uh, Janaka says, interesting. Okay, thank you, Janaka, for listening. And whoever is going to miss this, the video will stay on Facebook, on LinkedIn, or on my YouTube channel. Let me see who is going to win the. I don't want to call it win because it's not a competition here. We randomly pick. While I do all the back end work here, I also pick few who should get this. So the book, courtesy of Pick a Book, is taken away by Uma today because Uma asked some good questions. So Uma, I haven't picked up. We haven't picked up a book, but most of the time we give a self-help book, a self-development book. So we will. Last week, I think we gave something about brain power. Before that, something from Robin Sharma. So you will get something like that, Uma. And this time, by the courtesy of Foodies Farm to Table, you have the email here, info@foodies.lk, and you have a hotline here. You know who gets it? It's Kingsley, who has been asking few questions from us. Kingsley, I sincerely hope that you are not living in Monaragala like the earlier one who won the book. If you are in Colombo district, they will courier it to you. If not, you have to nominate someone who is in Colombo district, a friend or a relative. They will courier it there.
Reverse, you can be in Singapore. So you can send the vegetables to
Yeah,
Singapore.
Suresh just lost it because Suresh is in Singapore, and there was the other gentleman. He is from Dubai, so we can't courier it to Singapore or Dubai. So Jito, I think taxi is a more complex subject than this. I have seen you talking about taxes in a more comprehensive manner in such forums. Today, we wanted to keep it very simple and light for the benefit of SME owners and for the benefit of professionals. Thank you very much for taking your time off, getting ready and coming and advising us. We really value it. for the benefit of the audience. And by the way, Jito, so if they
Thank
can
you.
reach to a Gajman company, they can just search Gajman company, and
Or they can search on my LinkedIn. Jitendra
yeah,
is there. You can
Jitendran,
find me on.
Gajendran. Yeah, remember, it's not, don't search for Jito on LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what we call as friends. So search for Jitendran, Gajendran, or go to Gajman Company, give a call and ask for Jito. Of course, if anybody will transfer the call. So thank you very much. And thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
everyone. Who is joining with us. Yeah, you want to thank the audience, Jito? Yes?
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Amita. It's been a pleasure. It's my first time on LinkedIn, and I've been on YouTube, Facebook before, but with the LinkedIn audience, they always ask better questions and deeper questions. And thank you, Amita, for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. So for the audience here, join with us next week again for another. So that's the 9th episode of Cinnamon Chat with Amita. By the way, I have to remind you this. My son, who is 11 years old, will be interviewing Kamal Silva, who is a Sri Lankan born entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur operating from Canada, uh, on a special edition of Cinnamon Chat with Amita, and that would be tomorrow at 8:30 in the night. So I will be there, my son will be there, and Kamaj will be there. Of course, my son will take over the show and ask all the questions. So tomorrow at 8:30, don't miss the show. Thank you very much,
Thank
and
you.
stay safe.
Thank you.